Hello everyone, and welcome to my tier ranking of Mortal Kombat stages. These are the 2D stages that range from the original Mortal Kombat 92 to Mortal Kombat Trilogy in 96. Let's get started right away with Goro's Lair. Well, this is a dark-ass creepy hole, isn't it? So it's like, okay, my desire to be here in real life is awfully low. My desire to be here when I'm playing the game is somewhat high. I suppose I want to give it on the upper esh because it's definitely memorable. It's striking. You know, with the first Mortal Kombat game, all of these stages, like, there's nothing to suggest that this is any other planet or realm except Earth. Things don't start getting otherworldly and other-realmy until Mortal Kombat 2. And that's when Mortal Kombat really found its identity. And you could say that it peaked right there or it continued to grow further. But there's something to be said in the charm and simplicity of Mortal Kombat when it was in its early stages. That's why I'm sitting here doing a tier ranking of this tonight. So with all that said, where does Palace Gates land on a tier board? Well, I don't find it to be very memorable. This looks like a stage that could be in any fighting game. In fact, it looks a lot like it's from Street Fighter II. This one's just not very special to me. I suppose I'll give it C. It is just okay. I don't really not like it. Now let's move on to the pit. So there's the upper level and the lower level. Both of these are sort of tethered together, but they play as their own stages. I don't think too highly of the upper level. I like it a lot better in subsequent games, but in Mortal Kombat 1, there's not much going on here. I mean, we got a pretty moon, we got some illuminated clouds. I'm going to give it a B, but it's probably going to retain the back end of B. We take it to a whole new level when you're fighting somebody in a pit of severed heads and bodies and bones and blood. I almost want to give it an S tier. I think I'm going to. To see something like this, it paints an entire history of events in your head, and when a level really gets my imagination rolling like that, that's what gives it enough edge to land an S tier for me. Moving on to Shang Tsung's Courtyard, this is a strong A tier. We saw other iterations of this in subsequent games, Mortal Kombat Deception and Mortal Kombat 9. Pretty special. You got Shang Tsung sitting up there in his throne chair. You got all the spectating monks. And then you have the guards. I just think the detail and aesthetic of this stage is much more rich than that of the stages below it. Okay, moving on to Throne Room. Now, once again, we have Shang Tsung observing your ass beating from a throne. I kind of want to give it C tier, but in the higher echelon of C tier. I like some of these details, like the gold dragons and the rug and the red walls and shit. But I think you know what I'm talking about as well. When you see the Courtyard stage, you know that that's at least 2 tiers higher than this. I mean, right? Warrior's Shrine. Well, this one is memorable enough, but honestly, I've just never been really a big fan. I don't know, like, if you're only making 7 stages, I just wish they would have done something else instead of this. At least it has some detail, but it's just like the choice of the detail, just like showing a freeze frame of all the characters and then just bringing the saturation down so they look gray. I'll give it a little bit of credit. In fact, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm giving it fucking D for all this fucking torture it's putting me through. Moving on to Mortal Kombat 2 now. Okay, we're in the second game. And the first level, Armory. This one is memorable. Fairly decent. You know, it's got the aesthetic that you expect and want. It's got the feel that you want. I'm going to give it a strong B tier, sir. Now moving on to an obvious S tier. Come on. Deadpool, top of S tier. It's the king of the heap so far. It's the kind of stage and the kind of atmosphere that sears itself into your mind. And when somebody says the words Mortal Kombat, these are like the first images that pop in my brain. Deadpool, the pit, heads on spikes, acid, shit like that. Acid melting bodies, that little skeleton that rises up from the pool of acid and just drifts along. Now moving on to Sky Temple, is this? The tower? Just the tower? If this is a tower, then why do we feel like we're in a plane? Yet we're in a room that doesn't look like a plane. And then it's called a tower. What kind of a tower, when you look out the window, see the clouds moving that fast? I'm just going to give it the top of A. I mean, there's just something this one really does to capture my imagination. It's like, what are we inside of? All right, Khan's Arena. It's the courtyard made into the Coliseum. But somehow, I still prefer the courtyard. The Coliseum, like, it's still cool. They brought it back in other games. There's a lot of detail back there. But feels more like a B to me. Now this one. Right away, this one feels bland to me. This one does have a stage fatality. You can uppercut them into spikes in the ceiling. That is very unique. That will count for something. You occasionally see a pterodactyl or some shit fly around in that orangeness. Definitely of all the MK2 stages, this one is probably my least favorite. I do feel like it has to be a D, though. The Living Forest, S tier. Number 2 spot, that's where I just chucked it. I frisbeed it up into S tier, and it landed right in 2, and it looks right there at 2. And what's crazy was like all the rumors that you could actually feed somebody's ass to these trees. They did make it a reality in later games, which was great. Sometimes it's just the simple things, right? It's just a bunch of trees, but just put faces on them and some fluttery little tune that plays as the soundtrack, and you have an S tier level. Moving on to the Pit 2. So here's Mortal Kombat 2's version of the Pit stage. It's certainly better than the Pit in Mortal Kombat 1. I'm going to give this one an A tier. It has heavy iconography out the ass. It's got the 2 fighters on the platform in the background. Love that. We got a nice strong illuminating moon. Certainly an A tier. I think I'm going to give it above the courtyard, and I'm going to give it above the, quote, tower. Now moving on to Portal. What can I say about it? It's got the purple fuckers. It's got the portal itself. It's got a moon. It's got some electricity happening in the portal. The whole concept of like a portal background is certainly an imagination brewer. Anyway, so I'm putting the portal in A tier, but at the back. And it's wearing that minus because the portal don't fucking move because there's no animation to it. All right, now we're moving on to the Wastelands of Outworld. This one has some fine detail in the background. These little castles and shit and these mountains. You're wondering what's going on over there or in there. I like the purple color. Just the whole aesthetic of the place, I think, is pretty cool. I'm going to give it a nice, strong B tier. Real strong. Now we're moving on to a stage called Blue Portal, which apparently is only available through the Sega Genesis version of Mortal Kombat 2. So it's the blue version. It's got to go right next to the other one. And with that, we are stepping into Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Balcony, I don't really know why this is called Balcony because I can't really even tell we're on a balcony. This is a significant stage, though, because it is where we fight Motaro. There's even Motaro statues on either side of the stage. This one's all right. I'm going to give it near the back of B. Now we're going to move on to a stage called The Bank. I mean, all you got to do is uppercut somebody through the ceiling and you're already on the roof. What kind of a bank is already on, like, the 50th floor? Whatever. Guess you shouldn't think about it too hard. It's going to hit, I'd say, right about here, back of B tier. I think of all the vantage points we can see Shao Kahn's tower from, this may be my least favorite just because so much of the view is obstructed from the interior of the bank. Anyway, moving on to Bell Tower. Now, this one, it looks like it's lacking a lot of detail and even a lot of color, with a little bit of moon in the back and a little bit this guy and a rope. But again, like, it is kind of bland. I'm going to give it a strong B tier, like we're pushing B plus zone here. It does carry a heavy bag of memorability if it is in the upper echelon of B, let me tell you that. Now, the streets. No, the bridge. This one's the bridge. This one is actually pretty burned into my brain for some reason. I mean, I'm sure many would say, oh, it's kind of generic, you know, it's just like a basic looking street. I don't know, man. It's just like something about how you look like you're in a place that should be heavily populated, and yet it's not. The only life happening around here is the life of the wind. The wind that blows around newspapers and trash from a world that's no longer there. Like, this isn't some stage that's like so iconic, like, bring back the bridge. I'm not giving this above the portals. Let's not be that stupid. The graveyard. I mean, it's a standard graveyard, right? I mean, is it so standard? First of all, it's got the names of the game creators on the tombstones. Everything sort of looks haphazard about this graveyard. We got a moon. Moons are great. It's nighttime. That's great. The level even has a cool soundtrack. I like me a good graveyard or cemetery. You know the difference? A cemetery has no church. Moving on to hell. That's right. Hell. That's what this place is called. And I gotta say, for a stage that calls itself Hell, this one feels like it is lacking a lot. I'm just saying, like, couldn't they have incorporated all kinds of other ideas into the background instead of just duplicating columns of skeletons? So I kind of want to punish it severely for being a bit lackluster on what I think it should be. I'll give it the top of C. This is called Smoke's Portal. Why it's called Smoke's Portal, I don't know. Is this where you, like, fight Smoke? Human Smoke, Cyborg Smoke? I don't know. Can't really remember. But once again, we have a swirly background that doesn't actually move. It's kind of bland. B minus zone. Now moving on to Jade's Desert. Memorable for sure. I know. First thing we all think of is the Cyrax that's stuck in the sand. It's a middle grade B that wants to be invited into the B plus club. It's trying real hard to earn its plus badge. Alright, so Khan's Cave. So the aesthetic of the whole place, yeah, it's dark. It looks like he's literally sitting on a throne of Satan, just without the audience. And this stage is still technically hell, because when you uppercut somebody in the hell stage, they go up into this stage. So this is still very much hell, I guess. Anyway, it is memorable, a pretty good deal. I'm going to have it just behind the other Khan stage. Actually, I'm going to bring it 2 steps down and have it just above the armory. Now moving on to this. Okay, hold on. This is called, what? Skizlak Boozeras? What the fuck is that? I would love to know how the hell it got that name. Is this like one of those fucking, like, name backwards things like Noob Saibot? Zurazabu Kalsix. Well, whichever way you say it, that's a real mouthful of Greek salad. Anyway, this one, I gotta give something F, don't I? Yeah, let's just give it to this one. There's like nothing here. First of all, the portal thing, it's getting a little tired at this point. Do you think this one moves? No. If they're gonna keep giving us the fucking portal, at least, like, make it better each time. But we keep regressing. Last time, I only brought it 1 grade down because it was missing the moon and it was missing the floating purple people. Now we're just missing everything. All right, moving on to... Oh, this one had a weird name. This is like Noob Saibot's level. Where are you at? Noob's Dorphin. What is a Dorphin? What is with all this Germany stuff? What Noob Saibot's German house? This is a lazy fucking level because all they did was take the balcony stage and just remove this wall and the Mataros on the side. And you're just left with this, and they called it a level. It's lazy as fuck. I gotta give it F. Okay, the Pit 3. They've taken the pit in a wildly different direction, I would say. Of all the pit stages, this one probably is the most distinct in that we're inside like a temple, basically, and a pretty damn massive one. Just like the proportions are insane when it's really on display. So the base of this pit is not like it was in the Pit 1 or 2. It's spinning, whirling blades, almost like a helicopter that just slice you all to shit, and they're actually very terrifying. I'm gonna give this version of the pit mid-A. Nah, I'm gonna knock it back to low A. Okay, well, now we finally come back to the Shao Kahn Tower in the midst of the city stages. Up on the rooftop, this one is called Rooftop. This is maybe my favorite vantage point of the Shao Kahn Outworld Tower in the city. I am a fan. I'm going to give it there. Seriously. I just really like it. I like how you can see a whole lot. You can see the city. It's just like, what the hell's going on out there? Like, it really, really gets my imagination cooking. Fuck it. S tier. Now moving on to the Soul Chamber. I don't know if someone carved this or it just like formed out of this. It's like kind of like the Living Forest, only it's like the living column. And we have like this green shit happening inside of it. And then we got like spikes and sharp rocks and everything. And we're in a cave. It's like there's a lot to praise. I'm going to give it top of B. Nope. I'm going to give it behind the Wasteland. Oh, what's this one called? Like Starlit Bridge. Oh, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Oh, Star Bridge. Okay, so apparently this stage is exclusive to the N64 version of Mortal Kombat Trilogy. It's just a small conglomeration of elements that they had sitting in a bin somewhere to throw together a level, albeit a pretty one. I think it belongs right here. I'm actually going to give Goro's lair a bit more favor. Throw it right there. Okay, and we're back to this place, but now from the street perspective. And this is kind of like a mix of a stage I like, which is Bridge, mixed with another stage that I really like, which is Rooftop. I like this one a lot. Top of A- tier. Subway. It is memorable. It is pretty dingy, but this is certainly carrying a bag of iconography and a certain amount of enjoyment and amusement for me, especially the stage fatality that comes along with it. I'm gonna give it a notch above Bell Tower. Now moving on to the Church of Mortal Kombat. This is one of my favorite stages. If I was gonna go to church, I would go to Mortal Kombat Church. It's just like very cool to me. Like, yeah, S tier. This stage possesses one of my most favorite soundtracks because it's just like Dan Forden just going at it on the organ in the Temple of Mortal Kombat. Now moving on to Waterfront. This feels like kind of a lackluster stage. I like the cityscape in the background, the purple sky, but the platform and the mid-ground aren't doing much for me. I do like that there's a collapsed bridge that you can't really see off to the side. Probably going to have it right about there. And then finally, this is probably the most simplistic stage of all of them on this list. Yeah, this is lazy, and I've already punished a few stages for being lazy and threw them into F tier. In the real world, I wouldn't mind hanging out at a place like this or a place like Starry Bridge or whatever the hell this is called. I would chill out here and smoke a peace pipe and just stare at that moon and stars all night. I admire it. I'll give it right there. All right, guys. So all 14 of you that watched and listened to this video, I appreciate you being here. And wherever you are, whatever time it is, I hope you're having a wonderful day or night.